Okay, looks like we are live. We are going to be chatting a little bit today about artificial intelligence versus real estate professionals, kind of that deep dive into what we see happening in our industry, specifically from buyers and sellers perspective. Um, we're going to kind of close things out with a breed of, on my end, certainly agents that are going to change, and then a breed that I think is going to kind of die off. As we talk about some of these items, we'll loop back around to that, but really we want to highlight kind of the shift in our industry, how that translates to you as a buyer and a seller, things to consider when engaging with real estate professionals. To some extent, we should have had some differentiation between the relational and transactional agents up to this point, which I would kind of put the AI into the transactional. So a little bit of a spoiler alert there. But with that, let's get into the meat and potatoes here. Bring on Chase Hodgson with Summit Funding. How you doing, Chase?
I'm so good today.
Are
How are
you
you doing?
good?
Yeah, I
Good.
am.
Yeah, good to hear. What's your thoughts on all this AI stuff? It seems like this is the topic of conversation in almost every industry, but what's your kind of knee jerk?
Man, I think just like everybody else, right? Like initially you have some fear, like what's it gonna do? What's it, and as you dig into it, and the AI generation, man, like we could see major changes in the way all kinds of businesses are done,
Yeah.
around the nation, and the advances in certain industries that could be made. I mean, this could be one of the biggest like world changes that we've seen in our in
Uh-huh.
multiple generations, right?
Right.
Like going back to the industrial age and like all of those, like it's going to be a movement, I think.
Of
um
significance, but what does that look like? Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Well, we got a lot to talk through. Before that, let me do a couple of small housekeeping items here. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Jerod Lee. I'm the associate broker and team lead here at My Home Connection, also known as MHC Realty. Our sponsor for today is the Perfect Home Buying Process. We've been developing this now for more than 2 decades, just providing the tools, the skills, the knowledge, the information for you to feel confident in the home buying process. Um, Now, in large part with Chase, offering a promotion of up to $500 on your appraisal through the lending side and up to $500 on the home inspection at closing to help minimize your costs and help you feel more confident in the home buying process. The one thing I would recommend on this list, probably of the most value, is that no obligation, at least initial value, I should say, is the no obligation consultation. Just we'd love to have a open dialogue kind of about what your thoughts are, questions are, objectives are. A little study there. I didn't want to say objections, but anyway, just kind of that honest conversation around does this make sense right now, or maybe later, or not at all. So feel free to reach out to us and take advantage of that. So with that, let's chat, Chase, a little bit about kind of the high level you just talked about is I don't think anybody would argue that this isn't going to be a significant life kind of all changing or altering experience, such as the internet or the industrial age or the agriculture age or whatever. Like, there's been significant
Yeah.
shifts in the world about how we live our lives, how we do business. And this is going to be one of them. And of course, what we're talking today is specifically in real estate. What does that look like for home buyers and home sellers? Um, but I guess my take is, and I want to get yours, is I think to your point, it's when it's unknown, it's a little scary, it's a little intimidating. There's uncertainty. So what do? We compose all kinds of ideas in our mind about what it would look like, and some of us get a little fearful because there are unknowns. But my take is, it's change. Change is inevitable. The sooner you embrace it, the better off you'll be. The quicker you learn about it, the more confident you'll be in it. That's my take. What's kind of your take?
Yeah, that's what I've adopted too. It is, how can it make my business better? How can
Mm-hmm.
it help me serve my clients better? And be, you know I think ultimately for my industry, it's going to allow me to fill that advisor role way better, and
Mm-hmm.
it will deal with the help managing the day to day, labor and structure and all of that stuff, much better, so that I can really focus on client care.
Yeah, yeah, I love that because that's really where I came up with these three items on this, I guess, overlay here, and they're all
Mhm.
kind of the same, but just different ways to word it, right? If I'm looking at this from a 30,000 foot view, my take is if this is a service business, have we been providing service or have we just been checking boxes? So,
Mhm.
you and I talk most of the time about it being relational versus transactional. I believe this is a highly relational business, and we'll talk about the reasons why that is. But for those who've treated it transactional, I think they're really going to get the brunt of this because AI is going to do the transactional components to it. So, you know, why would we need an agent when the transactions can be automated?
Right. And I think so. We've been moving towards, and it's difficult for me, right? Like I'm old, and you're the same way. Like I'm a relationship person. I love to see people face to face and get to know, who they are and their feelings, and then ultimately be able to provide them, to fill their needs the best way that I know how.
Hmm.
And at least in my industry for years, we've been moving, and I think you've seen it too on your side, just more transactional, right? With the, click button, get mortgage, like all of that stuff. And it has its place, right? It has its place. There are certain people that's the way they like to do business, and that's great. But there's so many things that can be missed when you do it that way, and when you don't go through step by step, and you don't, and it's not really an enjoyable experience, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
the automated, I think there's pieces of our industries that can be more automated in order to serve other pieces of that industry
Hmm.
better, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why I put high tech versus high touch. I can't. I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce technology into my business because it makes me more efficient. It automates things that could be potentially missed, and there's just reasons to do that. But I always try to err on the side of touch versus tech because
Yeah.
otherwise you kind of lose that connection to your client and that opportunity to check in with your client because as we know this can be an anxiety provoking experience and just a brief conversation, even something that's not of significance, just kind of having that reassurance, can go a long way, and obviously automated emails and texts and door opening and all that doesn't accomplish that.
Yeah, it's interesting though. I yesterday I had the opportunity to sit in with a realtor team, and they brought another agent in, but that is also a therapist, right?
Hmm.
And they were going over anxiety and stuff in the industry and how to manage. Like anytime you're self-employed, there's all kinds of anxieties. Everybody in the world has
Yeah,
anxieties, right?
yeah.
And so, um, but they talked about, and it's some of these things that I just do naturally because of the era we grew up in, right?
Right.
Communication, where it's easy with in a transaction with another agent or with the client or whatever to text, and like there's no emotional attachment to it, and so you just feel free, and you can get, things can blow up and get out of hand, and it's funny how, like, when I get a text from someone that's upset, I immediately call them.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
me, that's just like, okay, we have to solve this problem. We have to, um, you know I have to understand what you're really feeling and thinking, right? And they're just like, even just the text message. There's no relationship, no emotion. I make fun of my wife all the time because somebody will text her something. She's like, "That's rude." And I'm like, "Babe, those words don't have emotion in that text
Right,
message."
right,
Like,
right.
they're probably just in a hurry and shot. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just,
it's just the
man.
way it
So
is.
yeah, it's you when you don't have that relationship, you automatically put your own meaning behind whatever is going on,
Right.
right? Not necessarily what the other person feels, needs, or wants.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting you bring this up, and I don't want to derail the conversation too much, but I think it's appropriate here. For those of you that don't know, we have a coaching aspect of our business as well. We work with a business psychologist, and this is actually some of our recent episodes of, what's text worthy, what's email worthy, what's phone conversation, what's face to face worthy, and that's a lost art. People feel like they can text about anything, and when you're in a high anxiety experience and you have questions, your mind, if you don't get answers, your mind fills in the gap. It wants,
Yeah.
it wants to quickly know what, have some reassurance, some confidence in what's going on, or it can make really bad assumptions and you can head off into the weeds very quickly. So, in large part, what our job is, and we coach agents to this, is if nothing else, it's just to have what we call resonance and the ability to set aside kind of our concerns, fears, frustrations, and help kind of lean into our clients and figure out what they're contending with. Because sometimes it isn't as straightforward as this small hiccup in the road. It's the overarching experience and the
Mhm.
lack of confidence and what's going on for whatever reason, right? Somebody, they
Right.
got under contract and somebody said something about them losing their home during the 0809 mortgage meltdown, and now there all these fears are, and they haven't shared that with you. So you got to find out, like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
So that's those, that we're going to talk about not a lot, but some relational stuff. But I think those are some of the biggies, and certainly what we coach to, and even to the extent where we talk about how to reinvent real estate, and that is using your mind to
Yeah.
become kind of strong entrepreneur, but then also be strong and confident with your clients. But anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent too much, but to your point, yeah, we speak to that all day, every day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important. And, me, I get coached all the time. I have business coaches, religious, uh, spiritual coaches. Like, yeah, I think, yeah, if you're not looking to improve, right,
Right.
you just miss out on a lot. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So again, these all kind of summarize that difference. If you're looking for it, is it personal or is it impersonal? Is it automated? Is it organic? Those are the things you're really going to want to look at. That the differences between AI and a real estate agent, and not just the door opener or the contract writer, but the things again that an agent should do as a human that a computer just can't even ascertain, let alone address.
well, yeah, and I mean, this is the tough part, but they put yourself in the client's shoes. Like, what makes you feel comfortable? What, like, you know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, how do you like things to happen? How do you, whether you're, as agents and as lenders and as, if you're like, I know what makes me comfortable. If I'm going to trust somebody, it's not going to be over a phone call or a text message, right? Like I want to know them. I want to,
Yeah.
and us on our side, like if I'm not meeting with my clients personally, I miss out on, because how much of language is not spoken, right?
Nonverbal. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's like the greatest percentage of language is non-spoken, and so if I'm not in the room with them, like how do I really understand, how to help them and how to serve them?
Yeah, and the tone, even if you said the exact same words in a different tone, it's received totally different, right? I could monotonely say 1,000 words and there's no reassurance to the client versus, my tone change, my confidence level, the sense of caring about making sure I answer that question in a way that puts them at ease. Like that, those are night and day different.
Well, just as an agent, like seriously, how many times have you been touring homes with people and figured out, they've told you they wanted something and you give them and you put them in that, and just from their body language walking through the house, you're like, oh yeah, this is not it at all. This is not what
Right.
they want.
Right.
Like, like it literally is everything. Like the relationship piece of it, the
Yeah.
human piece of it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the other thing that I don't know how AI would address this, and maybe there's some ability to discern. strategy at a computer level, but I can't imagine how, right? Because, data or, results or data that comes out of a computer is based upon how accurate the data that went in or the outcome, right? So crap in, crap out is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's not just what the data is, but it's sometimes a lack of data. And I don't know how an AI would help strategize. Like the first top item here is financing. Question to you is, can you imagine a world in which you were looking to strategize with buyers about what loan type they should be in versus another loan type, specifically about the direction they want to go in with building wealth, whether it's through real estate or, 401k or, whatever, like you're, because you're more on the not financial planning because you're an LO, but certainly you have an affinity or a bent in that direction and heavily consider that aspect, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's a big part of my business. Like I want to look at it holistically because I believe real estate is the largest investment that we can make, as humans and as we grow and how to build wealth. And so, like I partner with financial planners and we strategize together on how to best help clients. Um, so it's an interesting question because yes, I can see it, but again, it comes down to like the little nuances of it, right? The unspoken piece, the like.
Mm-hmm.
So say you take an application, right, and you have a low credit score or lower, like say below 640 credit score. You could put in how much money that you have in the bank. You can put in, it can automatically pull your credit. It can so it can do a whole bunch of this stuff, and then it could kick out just like, oh yeah, you should go with this loan,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's the nuance in between, like where, like you're talking about where you want to go. Like there's so much more information that goes into it. Um, but it will be interesting because I do believe there will be some of that in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it comes down to it's like you said, it's only as good as the information put in because I test it all the time. I've got it, I've got a chat account and I use it daily
Mm-hmm.
for different reasons. And it starts to learn you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if I ask a certain question, it will kind of skew the answer to what it thinks that I would want to hear, like
Mm-hmm.
because it's learned some of my tendencies and my belief systems.
Yeah.
And so, like we're in that era today where we see, media alone, right? Like you could see two vastly different
Night and day.
facts, what they call are facts in one given situation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're telling me the information that's being put in here cannot be skewed, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so it's an interesting thing. It'll be interesting to see how they deal with it moving forward. Um, but like basic structure, I think it will get there. But I will tell you, as I test it out every day, um, it will feed you the wrong information, like guideline wise, what you can and can't do within Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's there's there. I think there'll be errors, and I not that there aren't with humans, but I think we can take a much broader, holistic approach
Yeah.
on the transaction.
Yeah. Than AI ever could.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, the two
Can I,
things that come to mind are the AI, if it, certainly if it doesn't have an answer to a question, it can't, or it doesn't have information about you, it can't provide an accurate recommendation. And in your space, I know I've seen that you've asked questions that the buyer never entertained. So they let alone have a thought or a preference about it because they didn't even know it was an option. Oh, I could do that. Just the fact that you could even kind of assess where they're at and then present them something that they didn't even have a leaning towards. I don't know how AI would present that as an option.
yeah,
Oh, and then the second thing that occurred to me as you were talking is I believe they're called hallucinations, right? AI, it's going to give you an answer,
Yeah.
And as I understand it, it can hallucinate, meaning it just they call them large language models, and it just strings together words based upon what it seems the highest degree of likelihood that it should be the next word,
Hmm.
and it's going to come up with an answer. But in some cases, it just begins to formulate and then pulls from, low confidence resources or whatever, and then it just spews something that is kind of that. I guess I don't know why they call it a hallucination, but it makes sense, right? They're just
Yeah.
making things up.
Yeah.
So
It's not gonna not answer your question.
yeah, but if you don't know that there is this I don't know about a tendency because I don't know how often it happens, but there's certainly, I don't know that it's a propensity, but it's
Yeah.
certainly maybe not a tendency, but it can happen. And now
Yeah.
you're not aware of that, or you don't know how to handle, how are you going to discern that that was a hallucination?
Yeah.
And you're just, oh, that's what chat told me.
Going into this too, knowing we were going to talk about this today, I actually went into mine this morning and asked it, "Are you going to take my job? Right? Will you be able to do my
That's
job?
awesome.
Will you be able to do a realtor's job? Will you be able to do a title person's job?" And
Okay.
so, and this is what it said. It said, "Lenders, no, I don't take risks, sign notes, or navigate human nuance in live deals."
There you go.
That's the piece, right? And again, I think mine knows me very well because I use it daily, and so I can feel the answer being skewed a little bit, right?
Ah.
My personality, even
Uh-huh.
in those, right? Because it hits on, human. Like for me, authenticity and that human element of what I do is big, and I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Realtors, it says, I know I don't replace trust, negotiation, local knowledge, or relationships. And that's an interesting on the agent
Look.
side. That's super interesting to me. Like
Yeah.
it's telling you it's not human, right? Like it literally is telling you that.
Yeah.
Um, but for the agents, it's super interesting to me because that negotiation piece, right? Especially with the NAR changes, that's a huge deal in your industry right now. The
Right.
best negotiators are going to
Right.
rise to the top, right?
Yeah.
And then local knowledge, right? Like so, you think about this valley, north and south of the freeway. That's a huge divide in the lifestyle and the feel of this
Yeah.
valley,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it can't know that,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then discerning as you as an agent, which is your job, discerning from getting to know your clients which environment that they're going to feel better and more comfortable
Yeah. Yeah.
in. It can't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, that's interesting insight. Well, there's a couple of things that is happening here that I think it's important for our audience to know is certainly what you just said is it knows me and it kind of parrots. I heard it parrot what you would say, like, hey, that's kind of Chase talking.
Yeah.
Well, and the other is these large language models pull from different resources, and of course, they're all striving to pull from the most accurate, the most reliable resources that it can.
Hmm.
But they're resources, and this is information put in by humans. So not only is it got a Chase flavor to it, but it's pulling from the sources that kind of lean towards Chase. And it's wording, it's putting those words in, and I could bet you something very similar to that has been said in multiple other podcasts or YouTube clips or whatever. So the computer, again, figuring out what is the next word in my response, grabbing all this information that's already been said, compiling it all together. So I guess what I'm saying is it's kind of just parroting what's already been said in the way
Hmm.
that you want it to be said, um, where I don't think it's solving a personal problem, right? Because, like you said, they don't know what your financial situation is. They don't know what your wealth. The next one is the prior one was what your wealth generation preferences would be. It doesn't understand. Are you going to be in this area for long? Like, Are you going to take another job for more pay sooner than later? Are you
Right.
going to get promoted with the same company, probably at corporate where you're not there today? Anyway, I'm just saying, um, there's a lot
And,
of
and
personal nuance it doesn't have.
yeah, and the interesting thing, I'm sure you've seen this, is that as the generations have changed and we've been driven more to more online, and people doing all their own research, and you get more you get more questions that are coming from there and that are wrong, right? They've been given the wrong information online or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do this
Yeah.
while we were on here. I typed in, "Are you appeasing me, or is this the truth?" Not skewing to what you know, not skewing your answers to what you know about me. And it actually said, "That's a fair question, and I respect you for asking it."
Busted. That's what I hear. Busted.
I know, and so the answer sounds very much different now. It's funny. Um, AI will not replace lenders, realtors, or title officers in any foreseeable time frame. That's not an opinion. That's based on structural constraints in how real estate works. And here's why. So for lenders, if full replacement fails because of legal liability, repurchase risk, regulatory interpretation, income judgment, and human accountability. Like it says AI can assist, not assume risk.
See, that sounds like a computer response, very
That,
factual, to the
right,
point, not,
but so it goes to the point of, oh, it was trying to appease me. The first answer was totally my language.
right. Yeah, busted. There we go. Case in point. We just proved our case.
And it actually says it has exception judgment, and it can't understand borrower psychology.
Yeah. Right.
Not
Yeah, how would
so
it
fun.
yeah, how would it ever understand buyer psychology, right? Wasn't that on our first slide here? Oh, is emotional emotional intelligence. I put it on the third one here. You know, just understanding kind of your buyers and sellers risk aversion, frustration tolerance.
Oh
You know,
my gosh, dude, you're hitting it on the head, because this is the realtors one. It says, why automation hits the wall. Um, Negotiating under uncertainty, local nuance, emotional decision making, asymmetric information, liability for misrepresentation. So again, it can assume that risk. But it says specifically AI cannot read the room, pressure test a seller, which is exactly what you were just
mm,
talking about,
yeah,
and navigate human fear, ego, or urgency.
there you go. That's all emotional intelligence stuff there.
So fascinating.
Isn't it? Isn't it
That was
crazy?
a, that was a, that was a fun little.
Uh, Good, yeah, good job on that. We were just real time testing
Yeah.
AI, and it's interesting how it kind of just proved everything we're saying. We're arguing in our favor for a reason, uh, because we're humans. But then we ask AI what it thinks, and its take is
You're
preference
humans.
towards humans.
I
So there you
know.
go.
That's it. That covered the majority. There were some other things because of legal liability, and it doesn't want to assume the risk, but like there's the majority of those answers were all had to deal with what we can do as humans that it can't do.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's good stuff. Kudos to you for doing that real time. That's great. Yeah, I think we've kind of already talked about this. Just things real quick that I on the realtor side of things. Um, I talk quite often to people about why you would buy new construction versus why you'd buy resale. And sometimes it's just by virtue of what the available inventory. Sometimes it's the availability of resale. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why that ebbs and flows, comes and goes. And there's trade-offs, right? Nothing's perfect. So if you buy new construction, there's disadvantages that resale doesn't have, and vice versa. And I've got to explain that, and that can change. If I'm not buying new, am I buying a mid-century home or something newer? And if it's newer, what age newer? Because of the different changes in electrical standards and medium or how your house is wired, or plumbing, right? That's changed. So at what years? And I think it could kind of discern some of that stuff. Which years had the worst kind of materials for plumbing or whatever. But uh, I don't know how it could look at it from a holistic view. Anyway, maybe it could.
Yeah, well, and it couldn't help you decide, well, if you are going new construction, which builder, right? It can look at reviews online, but how, like, every builder has happy, has happy and angry clients, like every single one of them,
Yeah.
right?
And they
Doesn't
all,
mean they're a bad builder, right? Like,
yeah,
what, knowing exactly what each one is good at,
yeah,
and then, the extent of a remodel,
right.
right? It can only pull information online. Oh, it's been remodeled, but you walk through and none of the pipes have been done. It still has, tube and knob electrical. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
So,
you're like, whoa. Yeah. You plug
right.
in a vacuum cleaner and turn your blender on and your house is dark. you know? And that's what I put under buyer and seller pitfalls. Like you just don't know those things, and
No.
it's home specific, right? Has a just because it's a certain age, it could be better than new if it
Right.
was remodeled correctly, and you're like, yeah, buy that house,
Mhm.
versus you buy another mid-century home, and like you said, nothing's been done. It doesn't have any heating and cooling, and go ahead.
Yeah, which I think it goes to what will keep appraisers alive, right? They've tried to push automated valuation modeling, um, ever since I can remember, like the early 2000s, like 2008, 2006 to 2012,
Hmm.
which was the brunt of my career in the appraisal world, and they were pushing AVMs then. But it can't as neighborhoods develop, right? You could have really expensive homes versus sitting right next to starter homes, and it pulls an area,
Yeah,
and it doesn't have that, like, online. The computer can't see that. Oh wait, no, this has 2x6 framing versus 2x4 framing. Like, it can't see all that nuance. And so even on the appraisal side of things, we need that human aspect. And to your point, the age, right? Like, that is an opinion that really can't be mathematically calculated, right? You determine how old this house feels based on the amount of remodeling that's done,
yeah, and the
right? Like,
quality of remodeling, right? You could have a hack job. It was a DIY. The
yeah,
homeowner just kind of weekend wiring it.
yeah,
You're like,
which,
that's trash.
yeah, Home Depot and Lowe's have brought a lot of that around.
Right, right. Versus, hey, I bought in a professional, and an architect, and general contractor. Anyway, there's just so much to it. I don't know how you would discern that. And I think you call it uh, press click to get mortgage.
Click button, get mortgage. Yeah,
Yeah, click
it's
button, get mortgage. We
yeah,
have kind of a click
it's
button, get house. If you go to
yeah,
some of the websites and it says, place offer here. And man, the first time I saw that, I just cringed. Um, and I'm just, the website that's doing it, who they're representing, who they're not representing, how they're going to handle this.
yeah,
You just kind of never know. I know generally what's happening is the site either has in-house agents and lenders, or they're selling your lead to somebody, and that's the only reason why they put it there. But the
yeah.
actual idea that you could put a home in a cart and purchase.
Who I just the fact that people make phone calls and call them sight or buy them sight unseen is crazy to me, right? That, not let alone something like that.
Yeah,
and and then who assumes the liability if there's exposed lead based paint and all that stuff that hasn't been, right? Like, there's just so much liability in real estate. Is
yeah,
there is there a clear title? Like, like, what kind of insurance is involved there? Like, it's just so many things that you don't know.
yeah,
You don't know. Like, I own some homes back east, and it took them better part of a year, that little county, the first one I bought, that to actually change it into my name. You know what I mean? And like,
like, I don't own it yet, but I've been paying on it for a year.
right. And if
Pucker,
I
pucker.
hadn't, yeah, if I hadn't had that title company involved, I'd have been stressed out.
I
Like,
bet
do
a
I actually
year.
own this? Like,
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how. I'm pausing a lot because I don't know how I would handle it. I'm trying to give it some credit of how it might, but of what I know of artificial intelligence, and obviously you and I are extremely relational based professionals, and I'm trying to, in some of these aspects, figure out how that would ever work, and I just can't connect the dots.
no, it can't walk out and go through a house. It can't do the inspection, it can't, right? There's definitely ways it's going to help our industry for sure. It's going to
Yeah.
make us like, I think the last thing, when I asked it, what was the last thing it said? It was actually pretty interesting. It said, uh, it said that
Oh,
it said the top 20% gets scary good.
agents and LOs.
Uh huh.
I accidentally adjusted your frame. Sorry about that, bud.
I'll,
To the top 20% get scary good. Yes. So this is a good point. So there's a couple things that come to mind is it's going to change, but probably not going to change nearly as fast as we think, right? Because people that develop a technology or come along with the revolution, they've got to build the hype to get the money,
yeah.
right? Artificial intelligence is not cheap um, to develop nor maintain, so you got to get the money coming in. But it's never going to typically ratchet up as quick as you want, right? The dot com boom, they hyped it up, they got a bunch of money coming in, and most, or not most, but a lot of the companies just crashed. There was no substance to the business. Anyway.
It's going to be interesting. I think that, I mean, I look at what it can do for us. You know, you think about like you as a team leader and a broker, like on the technical side of what we do, how much easier could it be to train people that come on, right?
Hmm.
And it's not gonna teach them the relationship piece and all that other stuff, but it could take a lot of that off your plate, right? It could help us spot issues faster. It could help us have
Yeah.
smarter conversations, um, respond faster, right? Like,
Yeah.
just so many things. It can really help us to de-stress our day-to-day activity, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Here's a good example for you. I'm looking at this solution to help my sellers in my listings, and there's AI that I'm looking at implementing. And again, I'm kind of struggling between is it too high tech and not enough high touch. But the benefit is so you call this number and it's artificial intelligence that you're talking to, and immediately the benefit is I'm not available 24/7, right? I don't want to get called in the middle
Yeah,
of the night. And if you did, it's probably not a good conversation because I'm half asleep, right? But so I'm thinking about from that context, they're talking to somebody and it's a pretty realistic because I've seen samples, heard samples of this, and it's a pretty like a realistic, like you're like, is this AI? Is this not AI? But then you can tell. But my point is, follow on point to yours is it was able to gather information quicker than I could. So it says, "Hey, I'm calling on 123 Main Street. And I've got a question," and it answered it, which I could do. I just got the listing in front of me. But then
yeah,
it started asking questions about what other homes around that area also have a pool or whatever, and it just because it's an aggregator, right? It goes out to these
yeah.
disparate databases and it starts pulling in this information and say, I've found 6 other properties within a 5-mile radius with the pool and the 3-bedroom 2-bath that you wanted. Like, it's just happening so fast, um, that the experience for the buyer to start collapsing all that, because this isn't information that's either easy for me to do or easy for your big websites to do, because the filters that they have on there,
Yeah.
it's just hard to toggle a filter and then go back to another filter and then create a result and then modify the filter and then create another result, versus what I saw it doing was just, or heard it doing was just pulling in all this information and then using the large language model to push it to you with a very rapid answer.
Right.
So, yeah, availability and speed of response was amazing.
Yeah.
But
Well,
then
and
it
just
was
your
trying to push an appointment because it knew that it needed them to talk to a human.
right.
And it was a little
Because it's
pesky
all like,
about
this
it.
is where I get stuck, right? This is where, and now
Yes.
now I can now we can set up the appointment. Yeah, and
Yeah. And it
that's the
was a little
thing.
salesy about it because it was trying to, you know, get
Yeah,
you over to a human as quick as it could. And I didn't like that. But on the other hand, that's what should be happening, is they should be talking to
it
humans
is.
sooner than later.
Yeah, 100%. And so we're in the process. We just launched a new CRM that's AI based. And so we're, it's gonna allow me to stay on top of all my past clients better, right? And know where their rates are, and manage their future, wealth
There you go.
building and refinancing and all that stuff much easier. Um, you know, it, with my current clients, it's gonna help me prioritize what needs to be done and who needs to be talked to. Like, there's so many ways it can help our business.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. We talked about it's not. I don't think it's going to come online as fast as we think, or the people threaten, right? Oh, 80% of jobs are going to be killed off in the next 5 years. Like that's not going to happen,
Yeah,
right?
Elon's
Because
pretty convinced that's going to happen, man.
yeah, but Elon was convinced he was going to sell, the Cybertruck was going to be available in a year, or the new Tesla Roadster was going to be in three, and you know what I mean. So there's that hype component to it for sure.
Yeah,
But here's another example. How long we've been talking about a paperless society? Like my whole
right.
life. In high school, computers came on and they were talking about paper. We're going to quit killing trees. And to this day, I think we go through more paper than we ever have.
Yeah,
Anyway, I'm just, and maybe it's not that. That's probably hyperbolic. That's probably not the case still, but
but it's not gone.
it's not gone. Yeah, but to your point, I think it's going to make agents, and I'll get kind of what we talked about getting to at the tail end of this is who who's going to stick around and who's not. So transactional agents, I think they're just going to get replaced with the AI. Like
Yeah,
you're providing no value to your client, and this is just information that you're looking up as an agent that AI can look up. And by the
right.
way, as I stated earlier, can look it up faster than you.
Yeah,
So don't be
yep.
that guy um, or gal.
or do everybody be that guy? So we're the only ones left, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or I think, the agents that are relational, that lean into AI and how to help make them more efficient,
Yeah,
um, or more productive on the things that are repetitive. I think they're gonna come out the winners. And by the way, the buyers and the sellers are going to come out winners because human agents are going to have to shift to the relational side of things, to the high touch side of things. Otherwise, they provide no value.
could you imagine a client going through the build process without, with a computer trying to assist them? I mean, it's. I grew up in the floor covering industry, and I can't tell you how many divorces building a house together cost.
Yeah, I warn all my clients, not all of them, but the ones that I think can take it is like, hey, if you want to build a house, just know this is a marriage tester.
Yeah,
It just is. And I've been in that awkward, uncomfortableness when they start, going to blows, and I make light of it. Like, I'll tell the designer, maybe you need to take the gloves out, from underneath the desk. I just kind of joke, but it's tough. So
yeah,
back to the human side, like how do you make light of it? How do you let them know that this is stressful? How do you fill in where things need to be filled in to make them feel comfortable that yes, this seems insurmountable or frustrating or annoying or confusing, but we'll figure it out.
yeah,
AI is
yep.
not going to reassure you.
Mm-mm. No, I
Anyway,
can't research. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I hate to press. I got my next meeting coming up, so
yeah, no, we powered through them all, so I think it was very very timely. But
fun conversation, man. It's so that was a fun
that was a
conversation.
fun
Love it.
one for sure. For sure. All right. Well, Chase, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate your insight and appreciate how you take great care of the customers and clients. And other than that, we'll wish everybody a blessed one. Take care.
Take care.